You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Gerald Celente, publisher of TheTrendsJournal.com. Welcome to the show, Gerald.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jim.
Wow, we got a Trends Journal alert. This has been the worst January in the markets ever. Is this going to continue?
I believe so. You're looking at volatility has become the new normal, and when you look at the facts, and only the facts, they add up to, in the States, for example, the Dow had the worst 2 weeks of a new year in its history. And then you're looking at equity markets around the world plunging into bear territory. And you look at the volatility in the commodities, particularly oil. I mean, it's gone up, now it's up about 30% in over a week and a half. So what's causing it to go up? Well, all the other commodity prices are going down. So the markets have no sense of stability in terms of true economic growth, and in the markets, of course, the stock markets, of real price discovery. And we're seeing this fluctuation going on the way it is because not only of the uncertainty, but of the underlying fundamentals of the economy, which are running counter to what the swings in the markets are doing.
Well, I saw housing sales were up, but prices were down. That's not good news.
Well, it's across the board. You look at the numbers that came out on, Thursday in the States on durable goods. It's out of the news. They're terrible, they count. And of course, they're blaming it on a stronger dollar. That's a lot of baloney. I mean, you have a weaker loonie up there, and you're not increasing exports. So again, when you look at the numbers, Jim, the numbers don't lie. It's the liars in particularly the business news that have personal interests in whether stocks go higher or lower, and those are the cast of characters that they keep bringing on. They're the liars, because when you look at the facts, you just saw the number come out. 62 people in the world, 62 people in the world have more money than half the world's population combined. You wonder why there's an oversupply and a lack of demand of product, whether it's raw materials or finished goods? It's because the money is concentrated in the hands of a few, and the other people don't have dough to buy stuff.
How long before governments decide there should be a cap on how much money a person can have?
Who knows? I don't think that'll ever happen. But, how about taxing people the way they used to in the States over here during the golden age of America's terms of economy under the Eisenhower administration? You got people like these big hedge fund operators that are paying, 15% on taxes, and they call it, capital gains tax. They're not producing anything. They're just producing money for themselves. And speaking about producing money for themselves, and you can see the way the markets are fluctuating, go back to last Wednesday's meeting at Davos, Switzerland, when the richest people in the world got together. And what happens? Ray Dalio, the head of Bridgewater Associates, is quoted as saying words to the effect that the markets are in turmoil and that they need a new round of quantitative easing. Then presto changeo, another one of the guys that are out there, who's over there? The richest hedge fund people and business people, prime ministers, chancellors, bank presidents. Mario Draghi, the former head of the Goldman Sachs gang over there in Europe, who brought Greece into the Euro group when they should never have been, and now the central bank head of the ECB, or European Central Bank. The very next day, after Dalio complains, Draghi comes out along with Chinese officials. Of course, also Chinese officials were in attendance, signaling a new round of quantitative easing. And then the markets skyrocket up, along with oil. So the game is rigged. And this has no relation to true price discovery. Look what's going on in China. I'm reading numbers coming out where the People's Bank of China their balance sheet went to like 40 billion 20 years ago to 40 trillion today. And 20 years ago, government and personal debt in China was around 400 billion, and now that's at around 40 trillion. I mean, these numbers they're totally inflated, made up things with all this cheap money flooding into the system, and the money junkies never get enough, and they want more. So what are the Federal Reserves doing? They're promising more monetary methadone to keep the money junkies going, so their Ponzi scheme could keep afloat.
So again, they're taking from regular citizens to prop up billionaires who don't need this help.
Well, money junkies always need help. It's a psychosis. It's a sickness, and nobody wants to call a spade a spade. It's bankism. It was one of our top trends for 2015. Anybody could go look at it. It was right there. And what happened? You just saw the report that just came out from the they faulted the European Central Bank for forcing the Irish people to bail out the banks that made bad bets. Now, what is this? 6 years later, they come out with it. They forced the Irish citizens in 2010 when they refused, the banks refused to force bond investors to share the losses. So they went to the little people, and the little people have no power. And they call it austerity measures. How about stealing your dough and pushing you into servitude, and let's call it a neo-feudal society?
Is there a chance that we can see a change in these policies?
Not unless the people get the courage to stand up and demand a new system. You're not going to have any change as long as the ruling political parties in the United States, I prefer to call them the Bloods and the Crips, and I don't say that sarcastically, they're murderers and thieves. How many more people do they have to murder around the world in the name of freedom and democracy? Over 1 million in Iraq, over 1 million in Afghanistan. Destroyed Libya. Listen to that Peace Prize winner, Nobel Peace Prize winner. How about calling the Nobel Peace Prize a piece of crap? Obama leading the charge against Gaddafi along with Sarkozy and Cameron, along with Hillary Clinton, Samantha Powers, and Susan Rice, destroying the richest country in Africa and turning it into total chaos. And now these clowns come out and say, well, we got a plan to get their militants out of there, the people that caused the problems. So I call them murderers because the facts stand by themselves, and thieves. As I just reported to you from coming now, of course, from the European Central Bank placing an inappropriate debt burden on the Irish. It's not only there. In the United States, we had a scam called Too Big to Fail. That's right, folks. We're going to steal your dough and give it to the banks because they made a bad deal. So they're murderers and thieves. They steal our money in the name of Too Big to Fail, in the names of tax breaks and loan guarantees, and other inside deals they could do with their buddies. And they kill people around the world in the name of humanitarian missions and bringing freedom and democracy. So nothing is going to change in your country, my country, Italy, France, UK, you name it, as long as the criminal groups in charge keep running the show.
Do you think Obama should give the $1 million back for the Peace Prize?
What a disgrace. Everything he said he lied about. Hope and change you could believe in. Look what they're doing. They're ramping up. Now they're saying we're going to be in Afghanistan for another 10 years. Yeah, the war of necessity, he called it. Troop surge, 33,000 people. No, look, sociopaths have no regrets for their lives.
I was going to say, if some of these politicians read history, there's one country in the world that's never been conquered, and that's Afghanistan. Their attitude is, well, you can't bomb them back to the Stone Age because they already live there. And their attitude is, yeah, foreigners come and go, but we'll always be here.
Again, go back to, who was it? The British, the Russians.
Alexander the
Great.
Yeah. Vietnam's never been conquered either. China's been trying for 5,000 years.
Yeah, I mean...
There's certain places you shouldn't go.
You should stay home and mind your own business.
How much money would Canada and the U.S. have if we weren't busy stomping around the rest of the world perpetrating wars on people who don't want them?
When I wrote Trend Tracking back in 1988, the United States had already spent $13 trillion on the Cold War. Just between Afghanistan and Iraq, according to Stiglitz, the Harvard professor, and another woman that worked with him in putting the study together, that number is now $6 trillion. That was a couple of years ago. So it's probably escalated beyond that. So tens of trillions of dollars. When you add all the wars, all the military building up, for what? To build worthless ships and aircraft carriers that run for $13 billion each. And look what just happened in Flint, Michigan. As the people are being poisoned to death with lead in their water to save money, rather than pumping it out of Lake Huron, they pumped it out of the filthy, polluted river of Flint. And what did Obama do? He gave Flint a measly $5 million. Chump change. And maybe that's a couple of his drone strikes. Maybe that's what it cost. And maybe he'll lay off on 1 or 2 drone strikes. That's what they give the people. That's what I'm trying to say to you. These arrogant politicians think they're better than everybody else. And why shouldn't they feel better than everybody else? Because they live in the splendor of royalty. They're paid to do nothing, and they give you orders on what to do, how to say it, and behave yourself, because if you don't, we're going to send our goon squads to take care of you. We'll call them the police.
Gerald, should criminal charges be laid in Flint, Michigan, or in connection with it?
Of course they should. How about criminal charges for the false wars lodged against Afghanistan and Iraq? How about criminal charges for how about criminal charges against Israel for what they're doing in Palestine? Against international law. It's there. The facts are there. How about what's going on in Yemen with the Saudis invading a sovereign nation, bombing them into oblivion, the poorest country in the Middle East? And, of course, look at all the countries, including the United States and the UK, that are behind it and supporting it. So, the criminal charges in Flint, that's just one of the thousands when you start adding them up.
I can imagine if the people of Flint, Michigan get a class action suit going, they could bankrupt the state.
Well, the state is already almost bankrupt with Detroit. I mean, Detroit is in bankruptcy. Again, we have no money for this country. It's only a money for war. And that's the sick mentality that rules. Hey, did your new prime minister get rid of those jets over there?
No, they're still flying.
Still flying, huh? Yep.
Well, his solution, though, is to put people on the ground, and every time we put people on the ground there, they get killed.
Oh, that's what he's going to do, put people on. Is he going to go? Maybe he's going to send his kids. I guess he should lead the charge. He's a commander-in-chief. He'll know exactly what to do. You see, another liar. I heard all the promotion coming out of Canada about how he was this great guy, that was going to get rid of the jets. How long does it take? Well, they bring him up. They got to bring carrier pigeons to bring him back.
Well, it is pretty well our entire Air Force. 6 jets.
But I'm just saying, what are they doing there? How long does it take to bring them back? Can't count to 6?
Well, they can fly at 1,200 miles an hour. It shouldn't take that long.
Shouldn't take that long. So you see what it is. It's one club, and we're not in it.
Is there any way for us to be in it?
Yes. And you're seeing the movements that take place in Spain and Italy and other countries. There was the Podemos movement, the 5-Star movement. Are they the perfect ones? No. Le Pen, no, it's not the perfect ones in France, but it shows you what the power of the people can be if it's directed toward another cause. And how about let's speak about morality? How about a party based on morality? Wouldn't that be something, huh? You think people would join? Look what's going on in the States with Trump. Why do you think he's getting this power? Because the people are fed up with the other stuff. And this guy, to me, my campaign slogan for 2016 in the States is Trump or Clinton, Hitler or Hitlery. I mean, this guy, one lie after another. I saw thousands of people on 9/11 over there in Jersey on TV cheering when the World Trade Center came down. And he gets away with it. Well, somebody wrote about it that they said. Writing about it's one thing. The guy who wrote about it denied it. But listen, Junior, You said you saw. Saw means with your eyes. And you said it was being shown everywhere, so pull up the videotape. They have not been destroyed. And you got billions of dollars. How come you can't find them? I don't have to find them. I could lie, and I could say anything I want. I'm Donald Trump. I'm a billionaire. My daddy left me about $300 million, and I was born on third and thought I hit a triple, and I'll show you how arrogant I am. And the people clap.
What about all the Republican politicians who said Planned Parenthood was financing abortions, and a court case proved that they had not?
I know.
Do I hear any apologies for saying that?
Nothing. From either the left or the right. Psychopaths and sociopaths. Name me a party. Again, another one, Trump. He said, all these refugees, the migrants, they're all men. Show me any women or children. Well, I show women and children when we do Trends in the News, and then we get comments back. Well, that's most of them are men. That's not what Trump said. Show me the women and children. The report is 60% are men, 40% are women and children that are refugees from bombed-out countries by the United States, by Canada, by France and England and NATO and the Arab League and the coalition of the killing. But nobody wants to talk about where the refugees are coming from and why they're leaving. If they were bombing Vancouver, would you want to leave?
I'd be headed back to Peace River in northern Alberta in 8 seconds.
There you go.
One thing,
take your family with you, women and children. But he gets away with the lies. And they all do. It's the presidential reality show, and we have a reality show champion running the show. A bona fide reality show champion is running and winning the presidential reality show. And by the way, we trademarked that name over a year ago. That's how sure we were. And this is before Trump announced.
Well, if we're going to have reality show people running government, why can't we have votes every day on your cell phone on whether the government's doing a good job or not? Why not that?
Well, I'm all in favor of that. One of the things that we've been talking about for years is direct democracy. Let the people vote. You want to go to war? Let the people vote. You want to increase the taxes? Let the people vote. We do not have representative form of government. In the United States, we have a gang of 536 senators and congressmen combined that only represent the very rich and the people that give them campaign contributions, which in real-life lingo is bribes and payoffs. So if they could do it in Switzerland, and you point out everybody's, wired in one way or another, you got all the apps you need, and if you could bank online, you could vote online. So yes, I agree with you 100%. We should have direct democracy.
Well, we did have a person here in BC who tried to bring in direct democracy, and he was laughed out of court. But he said the Canadian Constitution says the people shall vote. But he said, when do we get to vote? Once every 5 years, then we're ignored.
Yep.
And that's what he said. Modern democracy, you could watch what's going on in Parliament and put your vote in instead of somebody who's acting in the interest of their party, who's acting in the interests of big business.
That's right, special interests. And unfortunately, but again, the court, who's the court? A bunch of, again, political flunkies with robes on. And they wear wigs up there?
No, they don't.
They don't, huh? Well, I guess you pull a little bit away from the Mother England, huh?
But we still call our judges and female judges milord and milady.
Do you bow when you do it?
Yes, you do.
Good. How nice. Don't forget to grovel.
Don't have to grovel, but
yeah, when you're bowing and miladying, it's a grovel. It's what they do to make you feel inferior, and that's what the whole system is. They are better than we are.
Well, I did ask our former Attorney General Wally Oppal what he missed most about being a member of the BC Court of Appeal, and he says, Jim, I really miss being called Sir and Milord. Now it's just Wally.
There you go.
And by the way, he is one of the better judges. I really respect the man.
Oh, good. No, not all of them are bad, of course.
I mean, he explains
but the system is rotted.
Yeah, I was going to say, Justice Oppal was very good at explaining things. He was one of the few judges that after a case you could go and arrange a meeting with and say what was going on behind the scenes, what went into that sentencing. And he said, I laid awake, for many nights, trying to balance what's best for everybody. And that's the way justice should be. It should be a balance. Mandatory sentences for anything. He says everybody's circumstances are different. Why did you rob the bank? Well, my kid needed money for an operation in the States. How about that? Should he have to go to jail for 10 years for that?
Well, again, it goes back to morality, is what I was talking about. And that's what's missing. Of course, there are a lot of good people out there. You know, it does not take a majority to prevail, rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Samuel Adams. That's what he said, you know, many years ago. The founding fathers, you know, there were atrocities committed in this country, but there were a lot of brilliant men there. And our Constitution, you know, it was the envy of the world in our Bill of Rights, and it's been robbed from us. And that's the other thing. When you think about the founding fathers, you know, they had a lot of dough. They were rich cats, a lot of them.
Trumps.
And that's what we're missing. We're missing the money behind morality.
I said they were their own Trumps of their own time. And also someone has pointed out in the U.S. Constitution, there is nothing that says anything about executive privilege.
That's right. They made this stuff up. Again, we've been robbed of our rights right in front of our eyes. They have the right, the executive has the right to kill a guy like me, take somebody like me and take me away with no judge, no jury, no trial, and never hear from me again. Under Obama, they did away with the Posse Comitatus Act of, I think it was 1887 or 1867, where it prohibited the military to do police duties, policing in the country. They repealed that, and it's one violation of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights after another. And again, you know, the people will fight over, you know, which freak they're going to vote for. And my freak isn't as freaky as your freak, the lesser of two evils. How could any self-respecting person think in such terms as associating voting for or doing business with an evil, lesser or greater?
How come we see court rulings all the time, a person's constitutional rights were violated, but in the law there's no punishment for doing that?
Again, there's no punishment in a neo-feudal society. You have different sets of rules. Look what went on with the banking industry. Again, I read to you what just happened over there in Ireland with the latest report. But look in the States over here. All the criminality around the world. 6 major banks convicted of felonies. Convicted of felonies. And not one head rolled.
Well, they were told when they started investigating the mortgage frauds in the U.S. that nobody would go to jail when they started the investigation. What cop would say to you, we're investigating you, but no matter what happens, you're not going to jail?
Again, it's a neo-feudal society. You have different rules for the very rich and other rules for we the little people.
Gerald, thank you very much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on.
My guest has been Gerald Celente, publisher of thetrendsjournal.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Check out our popular YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.